Hi, this is Joby Provido, and you're listening to Contemplating the Rosary, where we talk about how to pray the Holy Rosary even better. In 104 episodes, over 4 seasons, we will explore a method of how to say the Rosary the way Pope St. John Paul II, Pope Paul VI, and other Rosary advocates recommend, and that's by contemplating the mysteries while we say the Our Father, Hail Mary, and Glory Be. This podcast is based on the book Beyond the Veil, Contemplating the Mysteries of the Holy Rosary, available at Lazada in the Philippines and in print or Kindle on Amazon, wherever you are. Visit kindlingspress.com for more information and where you can read and download the episode guide. This is episode 7. Today we'll continue exploring the joyful mysteries, specifically the third, which is the nativity of our Lord. Sometimes I think of the Old Testament as a yummy dish seasoned with prophecies of a Messiah here and there. And every time you take a bite, sometimes there's a mild hint and other times the taste is very strong. One of these strong flavors comes from the prophet Micah, who said the Messiah will be born in David's royal city, also known as Bethlehem. But it wasn't Joseph or Mary who chose the birthplace of Jesus. In a way, it was Caesar Augustus. This is how that happened. He wanted to do a census of the entire world that was under Roman occupation, so he needed people to enroll first, and his decree was that people should go to his own town to do that. As a recap, the Gospel of Luke tells us that Mary is betrothed to Joseph, who belongs to the house of David. The last time we heard of Mary and Joseph, they were living in Nazareth. I think it is safe to assume they were planning to live there. But those plans changed forever. And it started because now Joseph had to go back to his ancestral town. And since Mary was his betrothed, she would bring her with him. I think we should pause and think about Mary's condition first. She was in her 9th month of pregnancy. Her womb was so ripe she could give birth at any moment. If she was living in today's modern world, she would probably already have a packed bag of things to bring in case her water broke and needed to be rushed to the hospital. I actually have difficulty imagining Mary riding the donkey. I can envision it, yes, but it's painful to imagine, is what I mean. A woman in her 9th month is already almost waddling under the heavy weight she has to carry. Every moment is difficult. If you think about it, this is no time for anyone that pregnant to be going on a road trip and on a donkey. But they didn't have a choice. The Romans required it, and so they went. I think we can imagine that Mary said goodbye to her parents. There's a manuscript titled The Proto-Evangelium of James, and it tells us that Mary's parents were named Joachim and Anne. So, most likely before Mary left for Bethlehem, she said goodbye to them. We must try to imagine what that's like. Maybe there was hugging involved. I'm almost sure St. Anne was worried that her daughter was traveling when she shouldn't. St. Joachim probably was telling St. Joseph to take care of Mary. I think the best thing to do is to see how people say goodbye at airports and translate that into the goodbyes of Joseph and Mary. The same manuscript also tells us that Mary did ride on a donkey, and that made sense. Being a carpenter, Joseph needed a donkey to bring things around for his work. Maybe he needed to deliver doors or windows that he made in his workshop. So it isn't far-fetched that Joseph had a donkey and brought it so Mary could ride on it. The usual way of people traveling at that time was by caravan. That meant a small group with their own animal or animals joined a much larger group. So it was like a convoy. And I think it made sense because it was safer that way. Again, let's imagine how we would convoy with friends today on a road trip. And again, translate that to the time of Joseph and Mary. The trip from Nazareth to Bethlehem is some 154 kilometers away. That's about 95 miles. And one of the things I always imagined was that maybe Joseph and Mary went more slowly than the others in the caravan because Mary was pregnant. So it isn't far-fetched as well to imagine Joseph and Mary arriving much later in Bethlehem than most people did. Even if Bethlehem was the royal city, I think we can imagine it more busy now, more chaotic. Since there were a lot of people there for the census, I think we can imagine merchants putting up stalls along the streets. They'd be selling things that transients would need, cloaks, water containers. Maybe some were even selling souvenirs. I wouldn't put past them to do something like that. I can also imagine restaurants raising their prices. Most probably, prices of everything went up. I remember going to Barcelona in 1992, just before the Olympics were held there, and the prices were just outrageous. So I imagine in Bethlehem, prices were soaring. So things aren't normal in Bethlehem, or in any city for that matter. So maybe we can imagine Joseph and Mary arriving in Bethlehem just as the sky was getting dark. The house and store lanterns start going on one by one. They are greeted by a flurry of activity, people crossing left and right, vendors peddling the things they were selling, bugging them with merchandise. They make it to an inn, and Joseph asks for a room. If we look at the innkeeper, he is almost puzzled. His face is showing, "How can you expect a room now? It's been several days already since people have been coming in." Can you imagine a face that says that? Maybe Joseph asks, "How about a storage room or any room big enough to stay in? My wife is about to give birth." Joseph points to Mary's belly. The innkeeper shakes his head. "Sir," he points to the sofa in the living room, "even that couch is rented out. Every single space has been taken. My 2 children, they sleep with us now. I've rented out their rooms as well." Joseph sighs and accepts the reality of it. He leaves the inn with a heavy heart. I think at this point, Joseph must be really worried because Mary might give birth anytime soon. So they try another inn. It seems the innkeeper of this particular place has anticipated an influx of people and put a sign on the door that says, "No vacancy." That's something we would do today, right? Just as Joseph and Mary enter, the innkeeper doesn't say a thing. He just points to the "no vacancy" sign. Joseph is bold and asks if there are any other rooms. A storage room, just so Mary can give birth in it. The innkeeper just shakes his head. But beside the innkeeper is his wife, and she sees Mary on the donkey, all ripe and ready to give birth. She has a bright idea. She tells Joseph she has a relative who has a stable in one of the caves by the fringes of the city. If they are okay with that, she can make arrangements. At first, Joseph wouldn't want anything like that. That's for animals. For sure, it smells like animals. It smells like urine and animal droppings. But Joseph looks at Mary, seeing how difficult it must be for her. She knows her time to give birth is near, and so she nods very, very subtly. And Joseph understands it. "Yes, we'll take the stable," Joseph tells the innkeeper's wife. She leads them to a house at the end of the street and talks to her cousin who lives there. She comes out nodding and smiling, and she leads the couple towards the edge of the town where there are caves. They finally arrive at the stable, and sure enough, it is as Joseph expected. The rooms, the couches, the storage areas in Bethlehem, they were all rented out because at least humans could live there. But this place, it wasn't rented out because it wasn't fit for human living conditions. Joseph is both happy and sad at the same time. He's happy that now they have a place for Mary to give birth. He is sad because he is the father of the family, and this place that isn't fit for humans, this is the only place he can find for the Messiah and for the mother of the Messiah. What must that feeling be like? I think this would be a good thing to ponder on while praying this mystery. Imagine yourself in the place of Joseph. The moment you see the dirty stable, smell it, hear the animals, feel the heart of Joseph sink, but at the same time, feel how happy he is to be with the 2 most precious people in the world. The nativity scene is a bittersweet scene, and let's never forget that. Let's stop here for this episode, and let's pick this up in season 2, 3, and 4, okay? Just as before, this podcast is brought to you by thecatholictalks.com and kindlingspress.com, where you can read more articles on the Catholic faith and find more books on Catholicism. This has been Joby Provido. I will say goodbye for now, and please join me again next time when we can learn to pray the Rosary better. Bye-bye.